This is an attempt at a different kind of video. I just want to riff out a thought that went in my brain last night, and I was kind of tossing and turning and couldn't sleep for whatever reason because I was stuck on this thought. It was that so much of the problems with video game criticism and YouTube in particular is boiled down to the word curiosity. So I want to try to explain what I mean by this. YouTube is a platform that rewards reaction. I don't think I need to explain that very far. If you do a search for almost anything video game related, is streamer reacts, some reaction to something from the game. React. What this does and its purpose is this is a platform that rewards outsized, overly emotional response to stimuli. That results in reaction content. Somebody giving their first snap judgment of content, material, media that's in front of their face. What this does is it destroys the most important part of critique, review, or dare I say like journalism, which is curiosity. Curiosity is how we grow. Curiosity is how we learn. Curiosity is how we stop being stagnant. Reaction is a assumption that one already has all the information they will ever need to be an authoritative voice on a topic. It assumes that my immediate response to a stimuli in front of me is so worthy of attention that I should post it on YouTube, which is very funny coming from the guy doing an unscripted riff for YouTube, but hang with me. As I became more curious when I play video games, I'm going to talk about what we mean by being more curious as a gamer. I think this is something that evolved for me in the past 2 or 3 years. And one of the aha moments I had when I was stuck thinking about this last night is that something happened to me in these past 2 or 3 years as a gamer that it's akin to as a musician. When I was around, I don't know, I was probably in college. I was probably like 20 to 22 years old. I had a similar aha moment where suddenly I could listen to almost any song and play it on my guitar. That's like a weird magical moment that happens for a training musician, is that sudden moment that you can see the code in the matrix of a piece of media, a piece of art, and you can engage with it on a deeper level where you understand how all the mechanics that bring it together work. And that's kind of what like playing a song by ear is like. It's suddenly you see that code in the matrix and you can enjoy it on a deeper level because you can pick up your guitar, you can sit at your piano, and suddenly you can play along and you can predict where it's going to go. If you look up people who can sight read or play something by ear the first time they hear it, it's because we're just recognizing patterns that are used over and over and over again, and we can predict things similar to AI, large language models, except it's a real human being using their own study that came from a curiosity of learning more and more and more about that topic, that subject, that art form. And I started, for whatever reason, applying that same thinking to video games in the past 2 or 3 years. And that light bulb clicked, and all of a sudden I found I could learn something from almost any video game you put in front of me. Some of this comes from the fact that I've been doing a weekly video game podcast called Camp Video Games with one of my friends, where we do like a really deep dive analysis on games. And some of it comes from I just decided to indulge my hobby, and I dug and dug and dug for the types of creators who were examining video games in really interesting ways and gleaning me more information rather than giving me this reactive response immediately based on what little knowledge they have going in of should you buy it or not? Is it woke or not? We'll get more to that. Video games become so much more fun when you just start being curious, start asking questions about why is this good? Why is this bad? Why does it feel good to move this character? Why does it not feel good to move this character? Why does this art style engage me Why does it not engage me? Why do I find the music grating, or why do I find myself obsessively humming it over and over and over again? And then when you get an answer to that question, you can ask yourself, why again? Why, all the way down? And this is deeply, deeply lacking in so much gaming content on YouTube.
Fucking pronouns!
When we're just reacting.
So terrible, so woke. Why should anybody buy this game?
Invite yourself to be curious. My case study for this, the thing that really started turning the wheels, is that last night I was hanging out on this couch with my partner and our 9-year-old. I had gone out for a walk, and this issue of Nintendo Power was out on the coffee table for some reason. We don't need to get into that. I don't know if it's coming into focus or not. And my partner started flipping through it, and she's not a gamer. Well, she is a gamer. Let's use our curiosity and openness and think about the terms in which she's a gamer. She likes gaming that is low friction. It's very casual. So almost every day she will spend some time playing a mobile version of Suika game, which if you're not familiar, it's the fruit dropping game. She plays New York Times crossword. She plays Wordle, and I don't even know what's called, the one with the circle and there's one letter you have to use and everything. That's the depth of gamer she is. And I had this issue of Nintendo Power out. She started reading through it while I was on a walk. She's never looked at a Nintendo Power. Using her own curiosity and fascination, one, we just really enjoyed what the world was like when you had to rely on a gaming magazine to understand anything about a game beyond its face value, and the fact that you couldn't just so easily, readily go online and learn everything there is to it. But more importantly, to our point about curiosity and gaming, somewhere in here, there's a few page spread with a preview and some tips on, here it is. Oh, I found it. Disney's Hercules for Game Boy. She read through some of this and was looking at it, and she was like, wait, there's a Hercules video game? And I was able to tell her, like, there was a video game for every movie back in the 90s. And I was like, I probably have that video game in a extremely legal format on my computer right now. And we fired that up and we started playing it, and I'm gonna be honest, it's a bad video game. It's an objectively bad video game, and that's totally fine. We can discuss that with curiosity rather than reaction, which throws blame at people for some reason. We had a really good time playing this really bad video game for about 30 minutes. It was fun to be curious about how did this get made, and not in this like derogatory,
oh my gosh, these devs, what were they thinking? Those idiots.
If you get more curious, what happens is you go, the mechanics of this are really clumsy and clunky, but there's like interesting attempts at this animation to make it look fluid and more like the cartoon as best you could on this very limited technology. I wonder how some things in this game got done decently, but then they didn't all click together like the Lego box to make the Voltron of a good game. And you can continue to ask yourself why. Well, think about it. This is a licensed video game from a movie. So the Disney executives, guys in suits, guys who are invested in making money first and making a good video game last, are the ones who decided, how much time do the devs have to work on this? How much money are we going to pay them to work on this? And how much time are we going to give them to clean it up? Make sure it's not sloppy. And those guys, all they care about is moving the product off the shelf. So their main concern is going to be, does the cover tell you that it's a Hercules game? Everything else is superficial to these guys in suits. So if you want to be mad at somebody in gaming, be mad at the guys at the top who make the decisions about what gets made. I doubt anybody who was working on the code for that game, who made the movement in Hercules for Game Boy feel really bad and clunky, who made it so that when you get to this part in the first level that even me, somebody who's played video games for over 30 years, got completely stumped about how to pass it and we gave up. Ask yourself, how did we get to this point without judgment? and you can actually have a pretty good time. We were laughing the whole time, not at the expense of the dev who probably wanted to make a good game but was limited by time and resources by the guys at the top at Disney who said, we got to ship this Hercules product as fast as possible. You can have a good time. You can learn something. Even my partner who doesn't play video games learned something about the ways they would attempt to take the movie franchise music and implement it into the game. We found it completely unrecognizable and grating. And if you get curious, you can go, well, the sound chip only had the Game Boy, I don't know, maybe it had 4 channels. The guy who had to program it, maybe they didn't pay him enough to get somebody who's an expert at programming game music and converting and translating the ideas of orchestrated music from the movie into a video game. And we kind of laughed at like, wow, the music's really grating. We got to turn it down to even keep playing this without having to judge and demonize an individual. Back to YouTube.
Wokeness.
I'm just going to say it outright. Wokeness is not the reason your games are bad. It is not the reason you're not enjoying the video game. The decisions about what get made are made by rich guys in suits at the top in the C-suite who are not saying, oh, we have a political agenda to a push because me, this multi-millionaire at Disney who cares about nothing but increasing my own piece of the pie of profit that is Disney, feels we need more women and more non-white characters in video games. That's not what's happening. Those guys look at spreadsheets, they look at data from consultants, and they say, after the 4 to 5 year development cycle that this game's going to take, we think the market is going to demand that we have more women and more people of color in video games. That being said, not every video game does need to look exactly like you. But those guys aren't making this decision on a
cultural Marxist agenda.
They're making this decision on profit motive. If you want to be mad at something, if you want to be mad at the fact that games are cynically pulling identity politics in and not executing them well, you can be mad at guys in suits who don't hire the right writers to do those stories well, who don't hire the right developers and art designers to make those characters interesting. That's who you're mad at. Meanwhile, we have these online reactive, dare I say, reactionary folks who spend all day, every day cranking out as much content as they can to maintain attention so that you stay outraged. And their main agenda is video games are woke, video games are woke, video games are woke. I don't want to go too far into this, but I do want to double down on how this goes back to that question of curiosity. These people who are pushing out this content, they are deeply incurious about the media in front of them. They say, well, this guy over here told me it's wokeness, and he seems to have a lot of views. So if I say it's about wokeness, but I say it louder and I say it faster, maybe I can garner some of that same attention he got and I can start making money for posting. They're not curious about why woke, which goes back to that question of, well, the boardroom decided 4 or 5 years ago, we can look at like the Me Too movement, if we're looking at a very shallow surface level of this, as a thing people were responding to and saying, let's start implementing this into our development. On the other hand, that is the right mindset for developing an entertainment product. 50% of the market, the potential market, isn't men. It goes even higher when we say such and such percentage of the market is not white men. It goes even higher when we say so much percentage of the market, over 50%, is not white, is not straight, is not cis. So what if we just tried putting them in video games too? Maybe they might feel included in the medium. Maybe they might start buying it too. Questions of, again, profit motive being the reason that we do that aside, that is a problem. But the actual act of doing that, I don't understand what people are mad about. That's what it boils down to. I just want to finish by reiterating this idea of curiosity in your gaming time, curiosity in your media consumption. Ask yourself, when you sit down to play a game, why am I playing this? What is it that I enjoy about it? And then invite yourself more and more questions, and you will have an immensely better time. At this point, what I can do is I can fire up a game like Hercules for Game Boy and have that fun time without it having to be at the expense of individuals who are lower on the totem pole than the people who are the actual reason for why it's bad. I'll admit, if I had spent the MSRP of, I don't know, $40 at the time when the game came out, and I was a gamer who had played good games like Mario, I'd probably would feel cheated. To take that out on the developer who was probably crunched for time and resources, rather than the cynical suit at the top at Disney who just needed to crank out a product for marketing purposes, is stupid and reactionary, and we should pay less attention to people who are speaking from that point of view. There's so much more fun to be had when you invite yourself to I'm going to redefine the red pill. When you decide to take the red pill, not the one that sends you to the manosphere and the anti-woke world, but the one that invites you to be curious and see the world for what it is, see the code in the matrix, and ask yourself questions about how did this get made in a non-reactive way, non-reactionary way. More curiosity means more fun, means you're learning more, means you're growing more, means you're progressing more. If you made it with me this far, you can like and subscribe this channel. This is a little different than what I normally do, but I also invite you, be more discerning about what you spend your time on the internet doing. Be curious about the motives of the person who you're viewing. That's all. Stay woke, nerds.